Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana Vishwa Nruthya Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana.
Namaskar. Bhushans Academy of Performing Arts and Visual Presentation welcomes you all for today's Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana, an online interactive dance, music, and classical art festival featuring several artists across the world and bringing them to you on this platform so that you get to know their journey, their thought process, and so many things. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಭೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶಕ ಕಲೆಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ದೃಶ್ಯ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಈ ದಿನದ ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯ ಗಾನಭೂಷಣಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯ ಗಾನಭೂಷಣ ನಮ್ಮ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಅಂತರ್ಜಾಲ ಮುಖೇನ ವಿಶ್ವ ನೃತ್ಯ ಭೂಷಣ ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಪುಟದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಕಲಾವಿದೆ, ಸಂಘ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಮನದಾಳದ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನ ಹಂಚ್ಕೋತಾ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ದಿನ ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಖ್ಯಾತ ನೃತ್ಯಾಂಗನೆ, ಭರತನಾಟ್ಯ ನೃತ್ಯಾಂಗನೆ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಗೀತಾ ಚಂದ್ರನ್ ರವರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have acclaimed, renowned Bharatnatyam artist, Guru, Srimati Geeta Chandran ji. Geeta Chandran is a wonderful dancer. She's worked in television, video, film, theatre, choreography, dance education, dance activism, and dance issue journalism. She is the founder and trustee of Natya Vriksha and the artistic director of Natya Vriksha Dance Company. She presented the 40th Arangetram performance by her disciples in 2016. That is such an achievement. Chandran is the author of so many journeys, a collection of her writings that narrate her engagement with Bharatnatyam. Geeta Chandran is celebrated to her understanding of the art of Bharatnatyam and for her Carnatic music. She is a wonderful singer too. She writes a dance column in New Indian Express, Sunday Standard. She's recently completed, as I told you, in 2016, she completed 40 years of dancing. The government has awarded one of the 4th highest civilian honor in 2007, the Padma Shri. And of course, the Sangeet Natak Puraskar for Bharatnatyam for the year 2016. In recognition of her vast, varied contribution to Bharatnatyam, Geeta was awarded the prestigious National Award Padma Shri also. She is one of the top graded artists of an outstanding artist status that is honored to her by ICCR. And Sri Samman South Delhi Kalasagar Award, Salberg Global Seminar invitation to participate in Conference for Performing Arts in Lean Times, and Dr. Sadhana International Empowerment of Women Award, and so many. Saraswati Puraskar, 10 Dynamic Women Dance of the World, a book by Canadian author Annie Dublin put Geeta Chandran's contribution to Indian dance in the league of all time. World greats like Anna Pavlova and several more. She is also the member Academic Council of Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh for 3 years, beginning since year 2009. Lifetime Achievement Award conferred on 31st March 2009 by the World Congress of Women to acknowledge sustained commitment to gender issues through classical dance. She is also bestowed with Karamveer Puraskar, Kishore Kumar Kalaratna. The list goes endless. Without much ado, let's welcome this amazing artist, dancer, thinker, activist, Padma Shri Geeta Chandran ji. Namaskaram.
How are you, Badri?
Wonderful, ma'am. It's such an honor to have you on our show, and we are so privileged and happy that you could make it after all these days. And we are happy to have you on the 65th episode of Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana.
Yes, quite an achievement, I must say. Don't you get exhausted doing this every day? It's such an effort. Amazing. A round of applause for you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's though people like you motivate me to till you say yes, it is like for me to drag you to such a level that I should get you on my shoe kind of. Though you were very sweet and consented it immediately.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in the show.
The first obvious question I would want to ask you is I'm sure you would have answered this in thousands of interviews before. How did the young Geeta start her journey? When was the first time you thought or your parents thought that you should be learning Bharatnatyam? Or when was the first teaching session started? When
Well,
did the teaching session start?
I was all of 5, and my mother took me to Srimati Swarna Saraswati, who was my first teacher, my first guru, my mentor, and I think the one who put the foundation for whatever I am today. And my mother thought that whatever it is, you have to learn whatever you learn well under a good teacher. And so she thought that, of course, there was no background for dance in the family or, in the immediate generations before me. But she thought that dance and music is something she was denied access to as a youngster. So she thought that I should learn it. And I am an only child. So obviously, she put in lot of effort and lot of hard work to kind of make me stay on track. So I think it was 5.5. I started dance, and I started music when I was about 7.5 with Srimati Meera Sheshadri, a wonderful teacher again. I was very fortunate to have both these amazing women in my life, and my mother, of course, my first, and continued to nurture me and nurture my art form, and always was there to kind of help me, to stand by me, and to never let me kind of feel low or feel dejected. Always inspired me and kept me going.
That is always money modala patashale. That is what we get to hear in Canada. You know, home is the first goal for any one of us. I'm sure most of our dancers wouldn't have been into this dance if at all our mothers nudged us or pushed us to this art form. Of course, that is there. That inclination has to be from within, and every
And
as you grow.
I always talked about my mother, but today I also choose to talk about my father, because mother, of course, was directly involved and was connected, but my father was a great lover of music and dance, and he had very large collection of LP records. So there was always music playing, and that ambience, I think, was so important. And he was always there to take me to kacheris, to drag me wherever I wanted to go, to take me to competitions, to explore, help me explore anything that I wanted to explore. So always had that freedom with Appa. He was always there to take care of whatever it was and prioritize. The point is that we see today many children learn many things, but the kind of priority that was given to the learning of the arts in the house meant a lot, and the trust that was bestowed on the teacher, that the teacher knows best. Today, there's so much of questioning of the teacher, questioning of so many things. But there, it was this complete surrender to the teacher. Both Amma and Appa were completely devoted to the teachers, and they trusted them immensely. So I think that is a big difference, I think, from learning then and learning now. And the
Were
other
you
thing,
always based in, sorry to cut you, were you always based in Chennai or was it in Delhi?
I have always been in Delhi. We moved to Delhi when I was 2. All my training, all my exposure, and as I always say, I love this city. And many people say a lot of things about the city, but I think Delhi is a fabulous city if you're an artist, because I think you get to see so many different styles. My friends are across styles, whether it is Odissi, whether it is Chow, whether it is Manipuri. I have friends across all. So I have been involved in watching their performances, in seeing their process, how they practice, how they create a piece. All these things have nurtured me and made me richer by, in knowing about the art forms. Also, watching a lot of international work which used to come to Delhi in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Great ballet companies, and we used to volunteer, go backstage and help out. And I remember, we were so awestruck by the costume designer who used to come, and little cubicles used to be built for each of the artists. The dancer had to only dance in the company. Everything else was taken care of. There were people for lights, there were people for sound. So, we learned so much, even just being backstage with these companies and seeing how professionally they were operating. And that was like a dream for us. So the aspirations and the aim as to what you wanted to do in your dance was not really to only pick up the next piece, but it was also to kind of imbibe all this professionalism. How do you craft a piece? How do you work on the various elements that add to the presentation of a piece? So I think all this, the city of Delhi, I must thank, and the beautiful venues we've had in terms of open air venues, in terms of small theaters, in terms of large theaters. I think we've seen it quite from young. We've been seeing all these things, very, very minimalistic programs in schools like DTEA, the Delhi Tamil Educational Society, where the greatest singers used to come, Carnatic musicians from Chembai Vaidyanatha Bhagavathar, to, you name the person we have sat and so close, seen, heard, learned from them. And we've had the great Sapalama coming and performing in the theaters here, and how the lines went on to the next street, to enter the auditorium. So all these are memories of the city, and we forget that how a city actually molds your artistic temperament and your philosophy towards the arts, because it can either make it very myopic or it can broaden it. And it can make you see so many elements, so many things that, because next to Sangeet Natak Academy is the Lalit Kala Academy. So you went to visit Sangeet Natak Academy, you would automatically go across to Lalit Kala Academy and then go see what the exhibitions are happening, and the artists used to be sitting there, chat up with the artists, talk about the process of creating a certain work. So next to that was NSD. So you went to have tea at NSD. So then you sat and, watched what is happening in the NSD Black Room theater or in the other big theater. You saw the posters. You saw how posters are created, how beautifully they used to be designed, and, the whole spectacle of it, how they could capture it in a poster. So I think it is, then there was this lovely place where we used to have sit and have a chart, and all the artists we used to see from NSD, from dance, music, everybody coming there and simply having chart and just gossiping and talking about. So it's a lot of interdisciplinary learning right from the beginning. You don't see dance as just a standalone.
I always believe in this because a city molds you, as you told, and I come from a city which is very culturally rich, like Mysore. Similarly, we have theatres, not state-of-art theatres that Delhi boasts of, but theatres of a minuscule, probably little technically little less, but then culturally rich as in dance and drama. And as you said, this is so for students of today, I would always say this. See, if this is coming from Geeta ji, this is one thing you should understand. Go watch performances. At least, if not for anything, at least गाली देने के लिए, अरे ऐसे खराब क्या, इतना खराब तो हमें करना नहीं चाहिए इस हालत के लिए, at least for this, if not to appreciate, that is how you develop a liking, because no other channel will talk about this. How many of you watch DD Bharati and national telecast, which is telecast at midnight? So I say it is, the good thing is, and see, Delhi is a place with lot of traffic and a lot of distance from venue to venue that way. In spite of it, if you could travel from one venue to other venue and see that interest is what is driving the passion, and passion is again driven by the force that is already existing in the house that we all should go and watch. And Chandran families, it is so obvious that you get exposed to this in early life.
Also, as I said, it's a question of prioritizing. What you want to prioritize in life, there are lots of things that are happening all around. But I think we came from a generation where we prioritized the arts. Of course, we never learned the arts with the idea that we're going to become professionals and we're going to take it up. Arts were learned without stakes. Arts were learned just for the joy of learning the arts. It was I never thought I would take up dance or music as my profession initially. I never had any idea when I was learning. So it was just something that you enjoyed doing, something that you enjoyed watching, something that you enjoyed just being in the process. So you never thought that a piece had to be ragadoed and made perfect till you went into the next piece. It's not like that. It was like an Atha Sagara, and you were just, kind of swimming in that water and trying to assess the water, sometimes enjoying it, sometimes, intimidated by it, sometimes kind of being weary of it, sometimes just letting yourself go. So I think the learning was a very different kind of learning. It was not in 1 week I have to finish this, in 2 weeks I have to finish this, in 3 weeks I have to finish this, into 1 year I have to finish my Arangetam. This is not the kind of learning at all. So I think that made a big difference vis-a-vis your attitude towards the arts. You were always very reverential towards the arts, as to you never know in the next step what would come out. You're exploring something and suddenly you discover something that you hadn't seen before. You're revisiting an old piece and suddenly you say, wow, this hadn't occurred to me before. So I think that joy I miss sometimes today when I am teaching, learning, because I just feel that we've become very goal-oriented. We've become very stakes oriented, which is today's reality. I'm not kind of criticizing it, but it is a change. So I observe that change, I recognize that change. I'm not giving any value judgment towards that change, but it is a change.
As you said, that is very good, thoughtful, because we never said we will take it up as profession, and that is the same case with me also, as you said. That I wanted to be a dancer. I just knew that it gave me a lot of happiness and a lot of growth within and a lot of interest. I would say it was an outlet for my emotions in a very disciplined manner. That is why I picked up this art. And I was never like, I should finish this within 4. As you said, today's generation is always, they know much before coming to the stream that what they would want to do after 5 years, when they will finish their Vidvat, when they will finish their Arangetram, and which city, which performance they will perform. But then, they are keen on performing themselves, but they're not sure of how often they would see another dancers or artist performance. This is such an apathy.
Yes, I still remember certain concerts which have stayed with me, because it was Chitraka's 70th birthday and they had asked me to send a little clip on her birthday. And I was just going through all the recitals that I had seen of Chitraka as a child, I remember her costume, her kautums. I always used to wait for the kautum. What is the next new kautum she's going to do? Her musicians, who were so brilliant, I would go to just listen to the musician and the coordination between the dance and the music. Like that, everybody, Paduaka with her new concepts always used to come to Delhi, and we used to be amazed with the philosophical richness of her productions, how abstract concepts used to be so beautifully woven into the dance fabric and presented so seamlessly. And same way, every dancer that we saw at that time, we stayed, and there was a consistency, and what to expect from a certain artist. I'm not talking only about the gharanas or the the schools of dance that they belong to, but their individualistic genius that they had brought to the dance, their individualistic investment in the dance, and how they had made the dance their own. I think that stayed with me, and always wanted to kind of do that for myself and create something that is your own, and something that you feel sits on your body, your psychology, your frame of reference, how that dance becomes your own. That's, I think, very important, rather than cloning somebody else. You just can't look at somebody and say, it might look beautiful on that body, but does it look good on me? Does it sit on me? Do I have the same kind of waist? Do I have the same kind of arms? Do I have the same kind of neck? Do I have these cheekbones? Everybody has a different kind of a physical attribute, and you have to see a movement might look beautiful and stunning on somebody, but if you imitate it and put it on your body, I think it can look disastrous.
That is one thing that younger generation needs to understand. They would say probably, somebody thin or little, probably I would say not anorexic, though nowadays dances are more anorexic at times. That is another altogether subject when it comes to being fit. I would say a thin person, whatever he or she is doing, cannot be executed by little indoor person, because it is varies from body to body. The nritta cannot be so much utparis and so many utplavanas and all that stuff. That they need
mind. Also the mind.
Mind, yes, the framework of the mind, that is also there. Now you were dancing. You were a happy girl who was dancing, who was always encouraged by your parents and all. When did the real bug of becoming a dancer, a full-time professional artist, or a passionate professional artist, that is what I want to put, because professional dancing is like, none of us associate like that. We would always want that somehow you just come into the stream, then you realize, oh, like, when did that happen?
Academics was very important in my house, because many of my uncles, aunts, everybody was from JIPMER, doctors, or from IITs, everybody. So I was a reasonably good student. So everybody thought, another one who would be, kind of taking one of these things up. And one of my mamas really wanted me to be a doctor. And I did take science in my 11th and 12th, and I did reasonably well again. But I was very certain by the time I finished 12th that I didn't want to go into medicine, and I would stay with something else. So I did well in maths. So I took maths honors, and I went into Delhi University to Lady Shri Ram College, and I did my undergraduation in mathematics. And the 3 years taught me a lot of things, because I was already a star in the college, and I was singing, I was dancing. All my professors were very fond of me. They would catch me in the stairway or in the gallery, and they would ask me to sing, and they'd ask me when my next program was. So I was already kind of being noticed as somebody who had a skill which was different from many others. I realized I had something. Till then, I was so normal because in my family, nobody treated me like a star, or everybody did something. Yaro mridanga vascha, yaro flute vasikara, yaro violin vasikara, ade mari ivlu dance adra. So there was nothing extraordinary or given, that little kiridam in the head for what you did. You did it because, you're supposed to do it. So that kind of a thing. So I think college made me realize that, there is something that I have, which is of value, and people, are actually seeking me out. And yes, I have this skill which gives joy. I realize that it is giving so much joy to people, and people want to kind of watch me or hear me or whatever it is. So that realization was, I think, very important later on when I made my decision. Of course, my father, after graduation, he said, "So now what are you going to do?" So by then I realized maths was not happening. I didn't want to pursue maths anymore. So I said, but Appa said, "Look, whatever it is, you have to do a master's in something, Otherwise, education is not complete in our house. At least a master's degree is a must, and you must do something. So I just for fun went and took an exam, Indian Institute of Mass Communication exam, and I got through. And I did my master's in communications, in advertising and public relations, to be exact. And there my friends were a different lot of people who came from very diverse backgrounds. And there I realized that Bharatnatyam, which I had so far seen as something extremely ancient, extremely spiritual, extremely aesthetic, suddenly I realized that it is also a communication tool. It can say things effectively when words fail you, So I realized that Bharatanatyam or the classical arts have to have a wider kind of a reach in terms of what we say, how we say it, and to whom we are saying. By then, I was already experimenting with English poetry, because in college, I realized that there were fantastic minds who could relate to a lot of things, good theater, good cinema. They could write about it, they could critique about it. But when it came to dance and music, I felt that they really lost. They could not kind of get into the form the way I would want them to engage with dance. They would say, oh, the Tilana that you did fast number was very nice. Your dress is very nice. You looked very beautiful. This is not what I wanted from them. I wanted them to really understand the poetry, the nuances, what I was doing, why I was doing a certain thing. They were not able to get into it. So I started kind of thinking at that time. Anyway, coming back to your question, I kind of lose track sometimes. After my post-graduation, I took up a job. I was working. And it was, I think, a very difficult period at that time, because I used to be in office and I used to kind of think about dance. Ayo, inniki adha practice pannaliye. I used to feel guilty that I hadn't rehearsed. And I used to come back, and my Guruji used to be sitting in the class, and saying, Adlama, and we used to start practicing on. By then I was tired and I couldn't do justice to it. So one morning I just kind of sat and I said, is it possible for me to give up my job and not get that salary on the 1st of every month? Is that okay? But I can dance? Or is it going to be that I have to give up dance and keep doing that job and going up a certain ladder and, kind of going that way? And clearly the answer was very clear, that I would cease to live if I didn't dance. And the job had to go. So I just went to Dakshinamurthy sir, who was my guru at that time, younger brother of K.N. Dandayudapani Pillai, who was a wonderful teacher. I went to him and I said, sir, can you give me, 3 to 4 hours every day so that I can give up my job and come full time into dance? And he at that time was absolutely marvelous. And he said, just go and give in your papers and just come and let's start work from tomorrow. And that's the time, I think the best period of my life, I would say, where it was only dance, dance, and dance. Because I had learned a lot by then from my various teachers. I had to synthesize all that. I had to think about it. I had to kind of, process it for myself. I had to digest what I had learned. So far, it was all nice. It was a lot of work. It was fun. It was going on like that. But this was the time when I put myself through the grind, and there was no getting away. Morning session, evening session was reading, then every evening going and watching a program. So I think it is a very, very, very structured, very hard kind of time. And there was no looking back, accepting any program that came at that time, because I think you couldn't choose as a young dancer going by train, second class. There was no way that you could kind of go any other way. And sometimes whoever came with me, sometimes it was a friend, sometimes it was somebody else, then going all the way from Delhi to Chennai to learn from Kalanidhi Mami, taking the train for 2 days and staying there, and traveling there in a strange city, all that. I mean, this is all part of the learning and enjoying, because I think we took it as enjoyment. We never saw it as a strain to do all this, because that was what it was. Because I remember, Yamini Akka used to travel at that time. She used to travel by train with trunks, costumes in trunks. And she used to be so scared that she used to sleep on the trunk, because she used to be scared that somebody is going to steal it away. So, these are things that you remember from senior artists. I was also a Spikmake volunteer for Lady Shri Ram College. I remember Sanjukta ji coming to college, Sanjukta Panigrahi ji coming to college. And she used to never travel without the Jagannath ji with her. And one whole trunk was just Jagannath ji, and the other trunk was her costumes and other things. So, people have really slogged. I think this is something this generation must realize. They grumble so much, but this is the way people traveled. That those times, the air was just not even an option for any of them. They have traveled the length and breadth of this country on trains, on buses, on cars. So,
And with no reservation at times. With no reservation at times, and near the bathrooms.
Yes. So I think, today, if we are dancing, we have to be eternally grateful to these artists who have created a space for the arts in this country post our independence. So it's very easy to say that they've had it so simple, that their time was very different, the competition was less. Competition was less, I agree. But the strain of travel, the strain of a whole lot of other things which are so comfortable today was not there for that generation. So I have seen all of them, whether it is Uma Sharma ji, whether it is Singhajit ji, Charu ji, whether it is Yamini Akka, whether it is, as I said, Sanjukta ji, all these people, they really had it tough. In terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the payments, all these things were, because, we were a new country, we were a young country, and the systems were not in place. So, they had to really work around all that and yet kind of perform and give a space to the classical arts in this country.
Well said. Actually, that is one thing. This is what I would say the saram of a complete artist, because this is what you get to experience and you give it to the next generation. But the next generation always says, "Aapko karna pada to aapki, ye, but why should we do it?" kind of. I say when we used to travel in those second class compartments with no reservations, because they would have applied for the concession from the artist quota that would have reached late, and then there were no reservations. They sit through 15, 16 of us in one berth, traveling, one bed, and traveling all the way up. And every nook and corner, somebody would say, "This is my seat, this is my seat." Unlike today's generation, where they would want to have flights, whether Baleni, the guru is traveling with probably in train, but the student says, "I would want to come fly everywhere." So this was how all this thing encompassing you to be an artist somewhere, because this is mushkil, easy. You would have gone through the grind, what is in store. Every show, you dance in Khajuraho or in Konark, it is not a cakewalk, like you have to travel. That Medai Mattu is beautiful. Once you're going on stage and once you're there dancing, it is wonderful. But the process of going till the stage, you go there may be no makeup room, no restroom near the mandapa, no place to change. You have kept 3 costumes to change. And you go there and dance. Your musician might be tired, or he might not sing, his voice is strained, or probably he's not heard with the mic, or so many things. With all this, you thought you should be a dancer.
Yes, I did. Because I think I didn't realize it. From childhood, I think this was my form of expression, because, when I did very well in school and I topped or something, I used to come back and lock myself and dance. If I didn't do very well and I was depressed about something, again I would lock myself and dance. So I think I didn't realize till much later that dance was my way of expressing happiness, dejection, sorrow. So it really was my companion through my growing years. And I did not understand it till much later, when I had to choose between, dance and my other career as a statistician or a communication person. I realized that I would be happiest doing just this, whatever the problems, whatever the customs that come in pursuing it. I knew it was not going to be easy. I knew that had I pursued my other profession, a lot of my friends were saying at that time that you can always multitask. Why don't you do both? Why don't you work and in your free time dance as well? Because by then there were people who were multitasking also. But I realized that I was not very good at quickly switching from one thing to the other. I was somebody who was in one thing, I needed to be in it. Even much after the class, I would still be humming. I would still be thinking of a movement. I couldn't kind of switch. Class never ended with class. It always kind of stayed with me, and I had to sleep over it. I had to think over it. I had to eat. Even while having bath, I would be thinking about that movement. So I am one person who, that keeps thinking about it. So it was very difficult for me to switch quickly. So I realized that, and I that's why I said I had to do this full time and be in it full time, because of which I could pursue my music separately, because of which I could go to scholars and sit and give time and understand the philosophical construct of the dance. If I did something, I was always involve a scholar and sit with the scholar and understand what is not just the line meaning or but what is the larger context, and understand and then place this particular composition in a particular context. So I think all that was possible because I had the time. I was doing it full time. So unlike today, we students do expect to us to give them ready-made pieces, which nobody wants to go through the process of creation, because everybody is so time bound. One, second, everybody thinks that one success story of you, a piece working on you, must just be translated on another body, and that should become another success story for that person. That kind of thing was never there. Also, I think we were the last of the generation which learned from gurus who were not performers. So those gurus never stood up and showed us a movement. But their eye was like a hawk. They used to watch so carefully, and they used to say, no, that is not working. Or when you say, jati, when we used to choreograph, is to say, give 2 or 3 options, and we say, which would be the best option, which would be the best kanak to sit on a particular jati. So I think everything was customized. Everything was worked out very carefully, looking at so many different elements. But today, most of the dancers are learning from performers, from dancers. So I think there is a body that already embodies the work, so that transmission is harder, because you have to then customize it even more, because when you do a certain thing, there is a tendency to copy. So you have to stop it there and say, no, don't copy. You learn the movement and then make it your own, and then I will see that movement and see how to craft it on your body. And that is a very, very long process, and that is why you find that process not these quickies. It won't come out fast. It will take a long time to kind of go through this process of evolution and come out. So I think that that's where I say, either you create performers, quick performers, or you create artists who are going to be committed to this for a very, very long time. So, these are choices one has to make while you are proceeding in your journey.
I do understand, because when we started doing it, it was like your excellence part. But then I've also gone through the process where we had to sit through, understand. First, you learn to sing, learn the notations, how the swara goes, how the this thing goes, and then understand the meaning, choreograph, think differently, how well you can execute, how well you can do these things. In the generation, I'm a dancer. I need a choreograph to choreograph the piece. I have a musician to set the music. I have a scriptwriter to write the script. And above all that, I have another control artist to give me the jatis. I have somebody to record the music and give it to me, take it. After that, I have my costume designer who will think what is good on me. Then I have my PR team which will set me what kind of photo shoot I should do. Should it be abstract, or should I just paint one eye, one half kumkum and then pose, or should I do under a banyan tree, or on the railway track, or in the park? And finally, there is a brochure designer who's designing the brochure. Then I have somebody to make a promo video telling me what to do, what to say. And finally, I have emerged as an artist. Now, this is today's thought process, where I have always believed saying that dancers do multitasking. You're always taught, or rather not taught, you have imbibed those qualities of being and doing simultaneously several things. You have to know music, you have to know theory, you have to know the language. Your thought process should run in the form of mudras, not like I think in English, execute in Tamil, then present it in mudra, how to translate. This weird generation this is in. So as you said, the shortcuts are becoming more and more. With all this, there is another barrier. I won't say barrier, I would say another milestone in every person's life: marriage. You don't know. Of course, today it is a trump card for several girls who would say, "Oh wow, I want to get married." Today's generation, I'm telling you, they would say, "Okay, I already know whom to marry, because I want a successful sponsor to sponsor my shows and recordings and everything." And there are other people who would say, "No, I would follow my heart and I would get married to a singer or a dancer." And there are some people who say, "I will get married according to my parents' choice, but then it is up to them to decide whether should I dance," which I strongly object though, because you would have toiled out. In your case, what was the thing that was offered to you? Did you have a love marriage? Did you have an arranged marriage? Was it like by choice, by chance? What happened? How did life change during that process?
Uh, well, as Rajiv and me were first friends, both families were very close, and I was extremely fortunate because right from, I think, school, we knew each other. So he knew that I was passionate about dance. He is absolutely mad with music and dance. He just loves it. He is passionate about a lot of things, right from gardening to collecting old utensils to collecting lovely bronzes. Right from the childhood, he had all these passions. He used to write beautifully. He used to anchor at AIR for cultural shows, etc. So I think we bonded right from school, college, through which we used to go to concerts together, and our parents knew each other also, which was also very nice, because the kind of families were both very similar. We were both Tambrams. We were both from Kerala, Ayers, both from same, Palakkad region, talking the same dialect. So things were a little easy for me, because the commonality of values, of food, of interests, everything was pretty similar. Of course, he was very flamboyant at that time, and very loud, and loved by everybody. But I was kind of an introvert, and very much into what I was doing, very sincere and very involved with dance, music, studies, etc. So I think in a sense, we were quite different in terms of personalities, and I think we kind of exchanged a lot of, I admired his extrovertedness, and I think he saw the passion for what I was doing, and to stay in one thing, the capacity to stay in one thing and keep doing that. But he had many things that he loved doing. So of course, I think I was maybe in first year or something, when he went to my father and he said that, I want to marry your daughter. So so my father was very sweet about it. He said, yeah, you finish your education, you get a job, and we'll think about it. And if you still feel the same way, both of you can get married, and we'll see. And he left it at that. And of course, much later, we did get married. And at that time, there was not much money with both of us. We have built everything gradually, bit by bit. It was not a laid out thing. We didn't have ancestral wealth, nothing. But we prioritized our life. We said that the arts are our priority, and this is what we don't have too much of savings, that we've saved up so much. We live today's life well, happily, and we just enjoy the moment. So I think life is too short if we keep planning about it. So I think life has to be lived to the fullest today. So we believed in that. And that's when we started Natya Vriksha in 1991. I started Natya Vriksha and it got registered in 1997. It was a dream to share what we had experienced, the enjoyment and the ananda that we had got from dance, music, and from the whole process of learning. We wanted to share it with the next generation. And we also realized that school teaching, there was a lot of gap between school teaching and what we wanted children to learn in terms of culture, in terms of traditions, in terms of just understanding the fabulous culture that we come from. Whether it is pottery, whether it is sculpture, whether it is color, texture, weaves, there's so many things that today's child does not even know about, or is so oblivious about. Even if it is there, is oblivious about. So that why are we not able to give our children that discerning eye? That eye for beauty, the eye for aesthetics. Even today, I see a fabulous sculpture. I'm transfixed. I can't move. I just have to stay there, converse with it, talk to it, see it from all angles and admire it. Why are we not just spellbound by seeing the Sharad Purnima? I can sit hours just watching and gazing at the moon. Every morning, why do I go outside and talk to that tree which is outside my house? I mean, people today might think it to be a mad thing to do, but I think these are the little joys, the little things of being alive, of being, aware.
The aesthetics of life.
Of aware of your surroundings, of being, if you see a sculpture, to be able to admire what has gone into the making of that, and what the creator would have had, what is the vision the person would have had to create something like that. And then, of course, the symbolism that goes with it in terms of the philosophy, in terms of the great mythology and the traditions that we come from. So I think there's so much of amazement around. There's this thing of being struck by things around you, that if we are not able to give through the education system or through even the learning of dance. I'm sorry, but dance learning does not really teach these kinds of things. So in my dance class, I have a lot of beautiful things around, and we deliberately have now started changing things around and putting new things every now and then, and observing the child, whether the child is even noticing it. Some do, some don't. So you bring a new beautiful sculpture into the dance space. Children don't notice it. They don't know.
And they don't even know the value of appreciating that or even feeling it and saying, I have thoughts of similar ideas. I keep changing my locations and the way it looks. Probably I have a bronze statue, then I have a stone one. I experience a similar thing. They wouldn't know that how it's not about expensive. You know, once one child dropped something and broke. I said, "Oh my God, I thought it was expensive." I said, "No, I'm not worried because it is expensive. I'm worried for the craftsmanship that has gone into the making of that sculpture. It is not about expensive or cheap. It is about valuing somebody's hard work." And you know, these are the things, values that probably the younger generation is not getting from the older generation, that is the immediate older generation, because they themselves are like, we don't want it. The country that can teach you to love cricket then always can teach you to love music, love dance, love arts, love so many things. Why are we not, we in the sense, it is understood that only if the child is put in, that is what I always correct the parents. I say, when your kid is coming to a dance class, it is not just learning dance. She or he is learning to appreciate music, to understand craft, to understand aesthetics of life, to understand well-being. It is not just taking a couple of selfies in a well-lit place or a nice picture. It is not just about taking pictures. It's about imbibing those things. And for many, home is just home. You know, it is like their clothes are strewn around, and you know, everywhere there are books, and you sit in a very ugly way. I say no. These aesthetics have to be incorporated the way you lead your life every day. That is when you grow, as that is what you will obviously give to the. It's not like you have a place to eat, that becomes the dining table. You have a place to sleep, that becomes your bedroom. You have a place to relax, and you know, things scattered everywhere, that is called as a drawing room. No, every other place in your house should speak about your personality, your well-being, your artistic ability to appreciate things and nature and what that has given you. And it is neither way that you buy everything and put it in your drawing room and say, the designer did and I'm staying in that house. It should be more of you believing in and reflecting the personality that your house or your vicinity is showing. That is what we fail to understand. Coming back to the point, now that you got married and you became mother of 2 kids, if I'm not wrong. So how did things change balancing as a housewife? I wouldn't want to call it as a homemaker. That's a better word. Being a homemaker, being a mother, being a wife, to being a dancer. How did you balance? How were things? As you said, you were not financially well equipped those days. It was not like as if you got richness and like every day you had people coming and cooking for you, or somebody taking care of your kids like today's generation. How did you balance?
I must say that I've been blessed with in-laws and my mother who have supported me greatly in terms of balancing my work and my home, and being a mother, being a wife, etc. So I think these multiple roles, of course, that time, I think, we didn't have social media, we didn't have so many TV channels, we didn't have so many distractions in terms of so many other things. So it was a very kind of a focused life, simple life, with, as I said, things, time management was very, very clear, and each activity had a set time, and you actually followed that timetable very, very meticulously. The problem was, of course, when you had to travel. That's when I think grandparents played a huge role, and my husband Rajiv also played a very important role in supporting me. And I started teaching very young. I must say that today many dancers don't want to teach. They say they don't want to teach. They will only perform. I started teaching very early. I started first helping out my guru in his teaching setup, and then he taught me to teach, because he used to sit next to me and correct me. Ipdi pannu, ipdi pannade, ipdi pannalam, appdi pannalam. He used to teach me. So it was not that once you can't dance, you suddenly begin to teach. It is not like that. So you were taught to teach, and then he said, "Why don't you start a class? why don't you take on the responsibility, and you'll see that you are learning much more when you teach, and there's clarity happening in your whole process of understanding the dance all over again. So I started teaching. That's when 1991 I started teaching, and I was pretty young. That's when, the whole thing changed for me, because that was one source of income also, which I pumped back into my dance, and I started, kind of circulating that, and that was one thing. Second thing was, in about 10 years or 12 years, I had very good dancers with me, and I started thinking group. Because, when you have your own students ready, then you see multiple bodies when you're in class, you get ideas. And you say, okay, this adavu seen from this angle, seen on this body looks like this, but it looks so different when you see it on a different angle. You see somebody else doing it, it's so different. So that's how we started doing group work as well. So by 1999, I had my first group work ready. So group also started because I started teaching early. I already had students, and hence my group work started. So I think it's a question of everybody around you. And firstly, the point is, if you are disciplined, if you have a routine for yourself and you stick to that routine, people around you respect you for that. You can't be arbitrary about it. You can't say, 1 week I'll do, next week you're not doing. People see that you're not really that clear about what you want out of dance. You have to set your priorities, and people around you ultimately respect you for what you're doing. So I think that's what happened. People in my in-laws, in my family also realized that this one is not going to budge. She's stuck to what she's doing, and we have to let her do. Fortunately, my mother-in-law also is a professional. She's a botanist, and she's all her life worked. So she knows what the pressure of a working woman is. I think that's a great blessing for me, because she realized that, if you had to go out on work, you had to go out. It was not kind of negotiable, and people around had to pitch in to help the person to kind of negotiate with that space. I think you can't do it without family support. I must acknowledge here that it's very hard if you want to play multiple roles and without family support. So family support is very, very crucial to pursuing any profession, all the more something like dance, because I think dance is a physically exhausting activity. So if you've danced for 4 hours in a day and people expect you to do the normal things that a housemaker is supposed to do, or to socialize and to be around for a lot of things, it becomes difficult. It's very exhausting. So I think you need to kind of make the ecosystem around in a way that is conducive to you pursuing a certain kind of, and it takes a lot from the people around you. I think without that emotional support, because there are moments in a dancer's career where you feel things are falling apart. You should have got that opportunity. You didn't get this opportunity. You feel bad about it. You feel down and out, and you are depressed. So I think people around you have to be kind of understanding of all this and pull you out of it, and give you that emotional support. I think it's very, very important, and I'm very, very glad that I had people around me. My mother, my husband, my mother-in-law, all of them have supported. My brother-in-law, who's a textile designer, whom I've always admired for the work he does, and I've always tried to kind of understand his work better because I'm fond of textiles. I am passionate about textiles. So I think multiple things happening in the house. So, and it was a joint family that I came into. So it had its moments of stress, because I came from a nuclear family into a joint family. So those transition years were very hard, and to make people around understand that your passion is different, because there was no dancer in this family also. So to make people understand about dance and how dance as a profession is very different from other professions, I think you need to negotiate that. You can't just push like that. You need to slowly work your way and make people around you understand.
Because this is not time bound. Dance is not like a 9 to 5 job here that you just go dance and come. You have late nights. You have to interact with the other gender with close proximity where you're talking, rehearsing, or letting them know about music and all. So that comes only with a broad-minded environment. One, two, to understanding family, which thinks that she is a professional who's pursuing a different kind of a profession. How did kids pitch in? How did kids understand this whole dancing mommy?
Well, there is no kids. I have only one daughter, and she, I think, from age 2 has kind of been in the class. She's literally grown up in the class. Either I have been dancing or I have been teaching. So you'll see a lot of my dance notebooks which are scribbled. So she used to take a pen and just scribble around in my dance notebooks. And I remember even in Kalanati Mami, when I was doing a class, I was doing Chudare, and she came back suddenly that evening and she said, Komali. Suddenly she would do a movement. So, so I think it was all going in, and she used to hate my trips to Madras because she used to say it is so boring, either dance class or it is one of these shopping areas. I just so we used to make it a point to take her to the beach and to take her to other places which would interest her. I think slowly children do understand parents' passions, and fortunately she was very interested in dance. She started learning. I never pushed her. She was in a general class. I have never taught her separately. She was in a group, because I always think peer learning is very important. You can't learn all by yourself. You need to watch and learn. Peer learning is very, very important. And that's why she has friends in the dance class who are more than siblings to her. So, and she started understanding that her parents were kind of weird. They always talked about culture, art, books, always these kinds of things, conversations. And slowly but surely, she started engaging in those conversations. And she has now become a very important part of Natya Vriksha. And I take her opinion, for now she's become an equal. I take her opinion when I have to compose something or when I have to do things in a certain creative way. Not only her, I think all my senior students have equal stakes at Natya Vriksha. They all are part and parcel. If I create something, I premiere it before them. I take each one of them their opinion, their suggestion. I don't think you can, create anything if you don't have discerning eyes looking at you, and they have the freedom to tell me, Akka, this worked on you, this did not work on you. They have the freedom to say that, because I trust their eye, I trust their intelligence, because they're all wonderfully intelligent artists, engaging in various things. They're all multitasking, unfortunately, because I don't think you can keep your kitchen fires burning today with just following dance. So either they are management consultants, or they are sociology, done their doctorate in sociology, or done their economics masters, or I have another one who's doing arts and aesthetics in JNU, doing a PhD. I have a variety of things, and all of them, for them, at the core of it is dance, but they're doing a lot of other things to keep the dance alive. So I really respect my students, because they work and they come in the evening and they dance like there's no tomorrow. So I think this is the new reality, where you multitask and you keep your passion alive. I have no regrets about it, because I think they are all doing what they can in their profession, also keeping dance as the focus. So if you're doing psychology, I have many students who are doing movement therapy, who are doing in psychology how they can integrate dance. If you're doing sociology, how you can integrate dance in sociology and bring it into arts education in schools. So I think that, one has become a light designer. One has gone into theater. So I think there's so many things. So dance learning, I think, this is what it is. It has to open up all windows. Dance learning is not just atte taha te hatte. You also need to create responsible social citizens. It's all about also dedicating yourself to society. to the well-being of society. Dance is not outside of society. Dance is part and parcel of society, and we have to know to integrate and to be very, very alive to what is happening around us. So I feel that I'm very gratified that my students are intelligent, committed social citizens of this country.
So well said. At this juncture, let me acknowledge the presence of Guru Prasad ji, Hari Padman, Gayatri Krishnoni, Lakshman, Lata Vishwanathan, Samyukta Ninan, Krishnendurana, Sudha Nagaraj, Vidya Manoj, Meera, Deepa Narayan, Shatindran, Lakshmi Shankar, Sita Lakshmi Ayyar, P.T. Narendra ji, Lata Vishwanath, Aditi Jaiswal, Maithili, Dolly, Sita Guru Prasad. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us and staying and listening to our conversation. Now, coming back to this, I can very well relate to when your daughter said, my son, who is 5 years old, who also comes up in the kitchen in the morning, say when he wants to have another dosa, so Mate, he does, so I can very well relate to, we've never had that official teaching, but then he is already doing it, and he's like how all parents would do. Actually, you would also do in the kitchen, suddenly like, people around us are used to seeing when you're going from the kitchen to your dining hall, probably doing a muktayam and going. So dancer's house is not like the normal house. So you proved it again by saying this, because I also experienced this at home. Now, you learned from different teachers. Was there any commotion between the styles? Did you ever bother like, oh, this is the Madhur style, this is the Kalakshitra, this I've been tutored like this, this is taken, that is the best train. These dances are more in demand. I'm sure you never had these kind of confusion, but I would want to listen from you. Like, what was it to learn from different gurus and adopting it? Was anybody said, hey, the Panakuda, because Kalakshitra will ask you to do this, then the Pandanalu will ask you to do that. So, and right from the Muktayam to bowling to somebody, to bringing it above the head, these kind of confusions, these kind of commotion, was it there in your mind? Did you explore this? What was your take?
Yes, I started learning from Swarna Sastyamma, who did only Tanjavur quartet pieces, because she was from the Tanjavur school, and she herself had learned from Gauri Ammal and from her own teachers in Kanchipuram and in Tanjavur. So I think by the age of 10, I had already learned Danike, Emayalada, Mohamana, Manavi. So, these Varnams were the staple. And we used to learn a lot of Jatiswaram, Shri, Ragam Jatiswaram, Ragamalika and Kalyani and all these, Saveri. And then, of course, a lot of Tillanas, etc. So it was, and Padam Javli, of course, was their mainstay, and lots of Padams and Javlis. So that was my basic, and dance for Amma, I think, was very different from what was happening at that time in Delhi. That was the beginning of Indrani Rahman ji, Yamini Krishnamurti ji. They were all just kind of making their mark in Delhi. And Amma used to be always baffled because she never understood this kind of dance, because she came from a very different orientation of dance, where dance was not necessarily performed in very large spaces. Dance was in very small spaces, and dance was seen as something that was very aesthetic, very graceful. The nadai at the back, the look, the reposefulness. If you did a Mohamana, after 3 hands, you would take a break and you would enjoy the music, and then move back, then again come back with an idea. So dance was a very different kind of, it went on for 3 hours. You did 2 padams, then 2 javalis, then 1 kirtanam, then you should see my Arangetram brochure. It has 15 items, and then you did an andal, and then you did a kuratti. And it was like a So that is the kind of schooling, dance schooling that we came from. Very traditional and very, very conservative. She used to say Sampradaya Shuddha Bharatnatyam. That is what she used to call it. And Shuddham has, the meaning is very different. For her, the Shuddham was not necessarily the geometry of the dance. Shuddham was in terms of the intent of the dance. You see, Shuddham became defined by Kalakshetra. Shuddham meant lines. But for Shuddham, for her, Shuddha Sampradaya Bharatanatyam meant the reverence to the classicism of the dance. It's very different. The Shuddham meant very different meaning to that. So that Shuddham, I still carry that Shuddham with me, because you are committed to the philosophy of the dance, the aesthetic quality of the dance, the auchitam of the dance. These are the things that she said was Shuddham for her. So I think that learning was the core of my learning of dance. After which I came to Dakshinamurti sir, who was flamboyant, who was the other end of the spectrum. He was influenced by cinema. He was influenced by so many, because Dandayatapani Pillai was a very flamboyant teacher. The jatis were very, very long, and they had these pauses, and new sholle. Old sholle was always tamti tamti taka takati tamti taka, very simple, plain, little counter rhythm, and small jatis, but very power packed jatis. That's what Swarna Amma's thing. But here you had this whole stage craft, which was something I had not learned from Swarna Amma at all. So when I came to him at a very impressionable age, I came to him again when I was in my 17, 18. I was very, very, very taken in by this, because I'd never done a Pushpanjali till then. It was straight away Vanda Alaripu with a Tirupugar sung at the back. That was what was the tradition that Amma followed, So the first class le vandu ninnona, you say tattodakatam tandan tandan din 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 tattodangatakutate. Now somebody singing like this and wanting you to dance, it was amazing, So for me as a youngster, so I think I took a lot of the stage craft from Dakshinamurti sir. How to approach a jati, how to cover space. Amma used to always say, the intensity is when you are able to dance. I will draw a circle and you have to dance in that. That is intensity of a dancer. And that is the power of the Aramandi. How you can hold the Aramandi and use gravity and bring that dignity to the dance. Amma used to always say. And here was Dakshinamurti saying, "Ivlo periya stage ne inge aadindirundha eppadi." You have to move, you have to go around, you have to be effective on stage, you have to be captivating on stage. So the whole thing, I had to kind of work, but he had great respect for Amma's work. He never ever told me that this is to be deleted, never. He would always say, how do we work around this? And how do we kind of tweak it so that it can work better in another context or in another piece. So I think the clarity, yes, in terms of certain other movements that Dandayatapani Pillai school practiced at that time, because Dandayatapani Pillai himself was from Kalakshetra, and the clarity of lines were definitely there. So yes, I did work on all that with Dakshinamurti sir also, because dance had changed by then. So if I had to become a performer, I had to kind of, react to the changing realities of dance as well. And I realized that. So I realized that Dakshinamurti sir had some great qualities which I needed to work on. And then, of course, I came in contact with Jamuna Krishnanji, who again changed my life, I think. She brought in this beautiful idea of poetry, of interpreting beautiful lyrics, beautiful poetry used from various parts of the country, and how you could bring it into dance. And from there, I went to Kalanidhi Mami, because Kalanidhi Mami used to come and stay in Jamuna Akka's house and do workshops for all of us. So we used to go and start learning. And then I went to Kalanidhi Mami myself and started learning. So that opened up a whole range of ideas in terms of the interpretative part of the dance, because Akka Jamnaka used to sing herself also beautifully. So music, poetry, and dance, you know, the connectivity of these three came separately, because I found that Dakshinamurthy Sars had some other skills, you know, but his forte was not really poetry or this kind of, but his forte was jatis and the traditional Dandai, the Pani Pillai, Varnams, all that were beautiful. Some hands, which was so unique to Dakshinamurthy Sar's style, you know, which we had not done in Amma's style, you know. So Vadi Vedangadadi, you know, Vadi Vedangadadi. These kinds of things which we used to never do in Amma's school, or Ma Mirude. You know, these some hands which went with the Sangadi, which was so beautiful in Dakshinamurthy Sar's style also. So I think it was really the coming together of both styles with, of course, inputs from Jamunaka that infused, you know, this understanding of dance and this holistic aspects of dance.
Were you anytime categorized or reprimanded saying that I am teaching you to do this? In the Mali, where it was like, oh, my body is already gone and got this thing, and it is so difficult for me to bring this out, or you know, see, for example, some show love here and some show love here and some show love. And some people run and show love. Bhakti was there any kind of difficulty in imbibing each one's style and growing within the style?
No, I don't think so at all, because I think Dakshinamurthy Sar gave a lot of freedom in terms of doing what was your own, close to your own personality. Because, you know, we whenever we created something, we worked with the musician. Firstly, நம்ம ஒன்னும் creation தனியா நடக்கவே இல்லை நம்ம பாத்துல. We never created alone. It was always the musician, Dakshinamurthy Sar, and me sitting and trying to see what we can do. It was not that you commissioned the musician and the musician recorded something and gave it to you and you worked on it. That never happened. So here we multiple times the same thing was tried in different ways, and then you create something. So and I think Dakshinamurthy Sar was very flexible on what would work, and he never kind of said that this ipdidan paniyana ipda. See, that's what I'm saying. It's a question of also him understanding that here was a student who understood music, who understood tala, who understood the philosophy of the piece. So whatever she's doing is, you trust the student then also. You also know that the student is not an empty vessel, but somebody who already has material in that. And so you kind of embellish that. You're not kind of going to demolish it and recreate it. So I don't think that was the intention of any of my teachers. Even Kalanidhi Mami used to say, you know, please do what Swarnasasti Amma has taught you. Let me see some piece that she has taught you. You know, because she also used to admire Swarnamma's work so much. She'd heard so much about her. So I think the basic thing was they all respected each other. All my teachers, you know, respected the other. There was no kind of pulling one down. So that helped, I think, that and you know, that was very, very, I must acknowledge here, a lot is said about the traditional hereditary dancers nowadays. I must say my association with the hereditary dancers has been fabulous. Whatever I have learned from them, the kind of people they were so giving. They were so compassionate. They were so hospitable. Every time I went, I've never come back without eating or drinking in the hereditary homes. You know, gurus were so particular that you must eat. And then I used to go to Bombay very often for vacations. And my teacher used to tell me, go and sit in Mahalingam Pillai's class. Mahalingam Pillai sir is my friend, go and meet him. I used to go to Mahalingam Pillai sir and sit with him in his class. And he used to say, Papa, Pannikami, நீ சொன்ன சஸ்தி அம்மாட்ட என்ன தங்கச்சிட்ட என்ன கத்துட்டு இருக்க நீ எனக்கு பண்ணிக்காமி. Then he would say, Dakshinamurthy sir என்ன ஜாதி சொல்லி கொடுத்தார் பண்ணிக்காமி. You know, the kind of affection that was there for each other, and the admiration for that. I miss that in our generation. I'm sorry, this kind of sharing is not there today that you see, which was there at that time. And I gained a lot. Right from Mutsami Pillai has come to my house. He was very close to Dakshinamurti sir. So whenever he came here, he would come to my house. So I think, I gained a lot by talking to them about their history, how they learned, what was the kind of transmission that has happened. I'm sorry that I didn't document all that at that time. I feel bad about it. But it's really, these people were amazing, and their contribution has been seminal, and we need to acknowledge that all the time.
Now you are an emerging dancer in Delhi, the capital. I'm sure there were already many dancers in the arena with different streams. How did you combat? Was there competition? Was there hatred? Was there jealousy? Was there any kind of mudslinging? Well, how was it? Or was it everything was nice? Just on the curiosity's sake, for the dancers of today who would say, in smaller cities in comparison to bigger cities. So the first-hand information for you.
It's never easy in any city, in any generation. During our time, there was no space for young generation. We had the prima donnas, and that is it. Nobody thought of the next level of dancers. You had the prima donnas, and they used to perform, and chota mota, whatever the others got, they got. That's all. Even in ICCR, there was nothing. There was no empanelment. So no empanelment. Every time only the prima donnas went for the show. We in fact didn't even question it, because at that time we were told, you have to wait in the wings. That's it. So, we found joy in the process of dance. We found joy in learning, in teaching. I think we never cribbed in that sense. Of course, we did feel that, Patani, when will my turn come? Will my turn come ever? Because, SNA and all, we were like so intimidated to even enter SNA and all. We used to be so scared. We just go, attend programs, say namaste to whoever it is, and come back. That's all. And the great dancers, the senior dancers would all be there, and we used to, if they said hello to us, we'd be very happy. So nobody noticed you as any. But I think with time, as things kind of went on, I think my first ICCR trip, I must tell this to the youngsters who at 25 are feeling so dejected. My first ICCR trip came when I was 36. I didn't go anywhere before that. So everything came, I think, only in the late 30s and 40s was the only time when we started kind of coming out and come. But by then, I think we were very rich in our learning, We had learned a lot, and we had seen a lot. So I think we were prepared for that, the 40s, when the time came, and we could kind of do multiple things like solo dancing, group dancing, pushing the frontiers, and doing collaborative works. For all that, you need skill. If the skills are not in place, I don't think you can rise up to the occasion and deliver. So that gestation period which is there is not to feel bad and feel sad and feel demotivated, but to fill yourself with skills. You need to fill yourself with every possible skill under the sun, so that when the opportunity comes, you should be prepared and you should be able to deliver.
You have always given equal importance to solos, duets, group productions, and choreographies of contemporary themes. But what fascinates you? What is it that you always like to do? Of course, we are, as soloists, we would want to go on stage as a soloist, but then I'm sure deep inside somewhere you feel in the thought process,
I think at different points in time in my careers, I've been fascinated by different things. There was a time about 4 years back when I used to only think group, because I was so fascinated by group. And today, I think it's a divided thing. I like group, but I'm back to the solo mold. I love the solo. And today, you know, access has increased in terms of rare varnams that you get out, which you can explore and which you can kind of work on. So I feel that, you know, there's a lot of more possibility in the solo which needs to be worked on. Also, outside the margam, there is a lot that one can do with the kind of experience one has had. Because I feel when I do the margam, I do not mess with the margam at all. I don't like to kind of, you know, suddenly in the varnam to put some shloka, or suddenly in a kirtanam to put one kautvam. I don't do those kinds of things. If I have a composition, I stick to the composer and what the composer is saying, and I do just that. But if I want to explore, I break away from the margam. You know, there are a lot of possibilities outside of the margam, because every poetry requires a fresh approach, a fresh vocabulary. And that's when many people tell me that Bharatanatyam is boring, I agree. Bharatanatyam is boring because there is no difference in terms of abhinaya when you do in a varnam, abhinaya when you do in a padam, abhinaya when you do in a javali. Actually, all these structures which are there are guided by music, are guided by poetry, and each has a different accent. But today, I don't find that accent. I find the same kind of abhinaya, same approach for everything. That is why dance is boring. So I agree, dance is boring because of the sameness of approach. It's the same kind of approach for everything, because there is no understanding of music, there is no understanding of sahitya. It is just kind of on the surface. So to make dance interesting, it's a challenge how a solo dancer can hold the attention of a viewer for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it is. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of mental capacity to create the diversity of visual diversity when you are approaching a solo. So I feel that depth of understanding is required. And I feel that that is what mentoring and teaching is all about today, where we can impart this beauty of Bharatanatyam, which has so many formats. The Varnam is such a beautiful format. At the same time, the Padam Javali is such a different format. Or you take a Sanskrit verse from somewhere. How do you approach that? How does the body react to a different verse sung differently? It has to react differently. It can't be the same vocabulary being saying the same thing. And I don't even see the difference in the spine when you're depicting Krishna or when you're depicting Shiva. It is becoming the same. You know, so sometimes I feel a little upset also.
I can very well relate to that, because only if you're upset, that is when the real dancer in you is alive. I feel that.
Yes.
Now, you know, you said the camaraderie between the gurus was there, but when you came into the arena and when you were establishing and you were noted, when there is Geeta Chandran also in this peer dancing, how did your peers, or how was the competition? I was asking about the senior competition with the juniors, but now I'm talking about your peers who are also in the arena, who are also in the making of full-fledged professional dancers. How did you ever have to face competition, anything of that sort?
Of course,
Could be dancers, could be critics also, because critics also make or break sometimes. That is what people say.
Of course.
But you would have had negative reviews, positive reviews. You would have danced for 6 months, and then one day you put up and somebody says, "Oh, it was a bad show." You know, putting it off like this. There's so much of hard work coming out and all. How did you react, or how do you react, or have you ever faced this?
Oh yes, bad reviews, programs not working, sometimes your musician letting you down. All this is part of the process of traveling in dance. And as far as peer is concerned, I think I have had more pure in other forms because of Delhi being so cosmopolitan in its approach. Other my peer were all in other cities, and I've really not had that much of interaction with them. And that was not the time when so many of these multiple productions happened. With all one evening, one dancer. That was the thing. In Nimari, it is not 3 dancers in an evening, 4 dancers in an evening. So it's not like that. It was all a whole evening of one dancer dancing. So, it is not multiple style. But at the same time, I think I got the opportunity to do spectacle work in terms of multiple styles on the same platform. And that was a learning experience when you had Odissi dancers, when you had, Kathakali dancers, and you had Manipuri dancers and my own students dancing, and all of us dancing together. So how the preparation, how the certain movement worked in Odissi, certain phrase, how it could be translated in different styles. I think those kinds of engagements were a huge learning curve. And I always went with an idea of learning when you go into such spaces, not really trying to flaunt what you already know. So yes, and I've had my heartbreaks. I've had bad reviews. I've even had people talking about my shade of my lipstick. So, these are all things that have happened to every dancer. Any dancer you talk to will say that you worked so hard and you thought you were so good, but X person did not think it to be very nice. So in the field also, I think you make some people you get closer to, some people you want to stay away from. These choices you make as you go along, just as in life you have real friends, you have acquaintances. In the same way in the dance fields, with some people you vibe better, and but I always had people like Jamnaka, whom I used to go and cry to, or I had Amma, whose shoulder was always there for me to cry on, who would say, Pona Poto, what they are saying it from their perspective, it's okay, do your next work. And the same critic will come and say it was very nice. So what is the problem? So let it go. So of course at that time it was a question of life and death, and you wanted to kind of kill yourself, or you wanted to. I mean, Dakshinamurthy sir was a very chilled person. He's a very, very, he used to just dismiss any review and say, forget it, just let them go. They just want to sensationalize something they're writing. So I think these are stress busters. You just kind of learned to live with all that. And then the same critics, now you realize they are your friends, and they ask you for comments, and they ask you for suggestions. So it's a full circle. And you realize their position also. They're also learning. It's not that they're all trained in dance, or they're also watching, learning. So I think it's not Veda Vakyam. And you realized over a period of time that what is due to you is going to come to you. And what is not due to you, and what you are not, destiny doesn't have it, it's not going to come to you. And one review here or one review there is not going to dramatically change the situation. Programs or organizers very often are not guided by many of the things that we feel they are guided by. You see? So I think the two are very different. And anyway, right now we don't even have reviews, we don't have critics, so what are we talking about? So I think everybody is a critic, everybody is kind of discussing dance.
To each to his own.
Absolutely.
At this juncture, let me say Namaste, madam. Very happy to see you, hear you, watch many of your shows. Gayatri says this. Interviews followed, exercise demos in your YouTube, etc. Today got opportunity to convey my pranams. That's wonderful, Gayatri, for watching and staying with this. Avajit, so many of them are acknowledging. I acknowledge your presence here. Now, I would ask another obvious question that haunts every dancer. See, if at all you're blessed with boys, it's a different question. Then if you have a girl you have a daughter who is in the dance class, who is also equally dancing and equally talented, or probably a little more talented, then how is the peer pressure with her when other students see, look at her and say, oh, ye to maa ki beti hai, Guruji ki beti hai, to isko to lagi hi, she is the heroine and she will get the cream of this. Have you ever experienced this undercurrent in your dance class, or has Sharanya experienced this undercurrent somewhere? Usko lagta hai ki because I'm Geeta Chandran's daughter, I'll be getting off away with this. Or you think, oh, if at all I'm putting her in the center spot, then probably I'm not doing justice to the other student there. Have you ever have any thought on these lines has gone, and any kind of conversations that happened on your dining table about these things?
Not so far, and I hope it doesn't happen in the future also, because I have been I feel a very fair teacher, and I've always given opportunity to the best performer. I've always given merit to the one who works the hardest. The true test was, I think, last year when Raza Foundation asked me to do a program called the Uttaradhikari program, which they do, where the dancer is asked to present somebody who the dancer feels is the Uttaradhikari. And I chose Sneha Chakradhar, my senior most student, as my Uttaradhikari. And many people were asking, why Sharanya is there? Why not Uttaradhikari? I said, yes, Sharanya is there, but Sharanya can wait, and she has to prove herself, and she has to work hard, and she has to kind of process. Sneha is already with me for a long time, and she needs to go because when you say Uttaradhikari, it is not only in terms of performance, it is in terms of also your value system, your philosophy, your overall understanding of dance. So I feel the teacher has to be fair. Always the teacher is above the mother, and I've always said to Sharanya, you have to work your way in your group, and you have to see that you, in all my productions, Sharanya gets the same space as every student gets. It's not as though she is the princess in the middle and others are just going. There's nothing like that. Every student is doing the same thing in a group work. So I think that kind of democracy has to be worked if you are fair in an institution, and you have to give credit to hard work and sustained hard work. You see, so Sharanya, I have never pushed her to become a dancer. She's an economist. She went to Lady Shri Ram College, and then she went to LSE, London School of Economics, to do her economics. She's a good economist, so she's working very hard also as a professional, and she's got dance also. So it's up to her to now make her own path and walk the talk. So of course we are always there for her, and I have also seen the kind of dynamics the senior students have with her, and the kind of she looks up to them for advice. I think it's a very healthy kind of a relationship. Competition is something that I think we really don't see competition as number of programs or number of appearances or number of reviews. We see competition in the class. If you're able to deliver something phenomenally, we all stand and applaud. So I think competition can be of a very different, healthy kind as well. We don't have to necessarily look of competition as only an external manifestation for the outside world. Competition is within, each one of us.
Your unconventional costume rather than the different, of course, that is the way Tamram used to, the Madisar reporter, but then for the typical Bharatnatyam viewer who sees that as a different way of putting the pallu or different way of wearing the dhoti costume instead of the regular costume, that typical kache with 3 fans or something is missing in your outfits. Was it a conscious choice to set a different pattern of costume for Natya Vriksha, or was it just for a production and went on, it clicked, and then you started following? And of course, the tilakam, the trademark tilakam that all of you practice in your production. So what was it?
I used to think a lot about the costume and the traditional costume, and I used to hate the seat cover. I think the seat cover really does not do anything to anybody, because we are all a certain way. The Indian hip is a certain way, and this tight seat cover business. I always felt that it really didn't do justice to the dancer. And you saw in Odissi where it is a loose pajama, and the lines are clean, and it used to look nice. And only in Bharatnatyam you had this tight thing around the waist. So I started looking for a combination. Yet I like the pajama, because pajama brings out the lines of the dance very well. So it's something that brings together the pajama and the wrap, the sari. So I just wanted a combination of the two, and you're always looking for that. And then I met this very young designer from NID who was interested in working, Sandhya Raman, on costumes. And we started kind of negotiating what can work, tried many things in cotton and see what can work and how it can work. And then came up with this basic pajama, but with a wrap around it, which is a cutaway kind of a fan. So you had the fan, you had the pajama, but you didn't have the seat cover. So that, and you had the, I always thought the pallu of the sari is so beautiful, and wasting it on the fan, sometimes I felt was not doing justice to cutting it up and doing it. So I started using the pallu in as the melaka, and then keeping the tassels in front, hanging, so that it looks nice and graceful. So these were some little innovations that we sat together, and by that time, I think my dance had also become evolved, and it was taking a new course in terms of what I was doing, in terms of coming out of the traditional margam and doing things outside of the margam, doing thematic work, etc. So I thought the costume would also then resonate the way I was moving in the dance. So I think that was how that happened. And then when we started doing the group, I think, yes, since we had already started working, but my students, when they perform, they also wear the traditional costume also at times. And of course, if they feel the need, they see it has to be a personal choice. I don't force it on them. It is their choice. If they want to step out of the traditional costume and try out something else, then they are most welcome to do it. But if they want to stay in the traditional mold, because today I think more than ever before, people are scared of experimenting. I think our generation was bolder. We took risks. But today, I think people are very careful about the way they look, the pieces they take, because they feel a certain society or a certain group of people whom they feel are very important will accept them only if they are a certain way. So we never bothered about all that. We always crafted something on oneself. What is my body? What looks good on it? Go and do it. I don't care about, whom I'm pleasing or what I'm doing. I think our generation was, risk-taking was much more. Also in terms of content, we broke a lot of the stereotypical content and went into other content and started experimenting with it. And hence, I think, widened the audience for dance. So I feel that risk-taking is a very important part. And if you are an artist with conviction, you will take risks and you will move out of the comfort zone and try out things for yourself and see, and also fail and learn from those failures. So I think that this generation is a little scared of, I don't know why, but I think they need to take more risks and explore.
At this juncture, people, as I spoke about costumes, we are getting a lot of compliments on our matching. And emphasizing both Badri, your nice blue with black dress today, beautiful. Then there is somebody asking, is this Utsav sari? Women, I tell you, are always bothered from where you're buying the sari
Yes,
from.
Utsav always. Utsav is my brother-in-law's shop. Yes, it's an Utsav sari. Yes, yes, Vinita.
This is Vinita, this is Bhushan's design. It's mine. I design, so it is mine. I don't know whether Geeta ji knows this. I'm a Niftian. I did my design. I'm the Niftian from Delhi. I have a label of my own. I retail through Shop Stop, Ensemble, Folio, Benza, some shops, and I have my own label called as Bhushan Originals. I design for several stars, dance, fashion models, and anything. That is my another. Profession, I would say, but otherwise, it's just a piece of information as people were asking. And somebody's now, okay, every episode, Badri Divya Bhushan sir matches the costume. Thank you, Gayatri. So you're watching every episode. And I'm jealous. Oh my God. Ma'am, where do you find dance now going? Okay, that is a question by Seema Jawhar. Where do you think dance is going? It is traveling, I feel. It is traveling. It's a phase that we have.
Dance is, see, dance has to move, because I always believe that we have to adapt to changing times, and we are moving. But I do worry about dance, because I think there is a lot of pressures on youngsters, because of which I think they are confused, because there's too much content that is available from all various sources. So unless you are very grounded, unless you have a very strong mentor who is kind of working on you, it can be a very, very confused journey. Because even all the more in the lockdown, I think there's so much material. Somebody is saying this is wonderful, somebody is saying, if it comes to even body conditioning, somebody is saying this warm up is very good, somebody else is saying sweat it out, this is teihatehi podu patinde podundere iron daram teihatehi podu, that is the best way of learning. So there's so much of information all around, that ultimately, to process all that and see what works for you needs a lot of stability, lot of intelligence, lot of guidance. So I feel it's a very confused situation in dance right now, and we'll have to see where it goes and how it all emerges. I still feel tradition has its place, and we must still kind of respect that. As I said earlier, when we do a varnam, to do full justice to a varnam, and not maybe necessarily do a varnam for 20 minutes or finish it off. Unfortunately, we have paucity of time, but to engage with it as a central piece and kind of see all the shades of the varnam. What is varnam? Colors. And you need to engage with music, with rhythm, and see the entire poem as a seamless thing, and engage with it. That's very important, I think. And as I said, confusion out of this churning, what's going to come out is always, one is excited to see what's going to come out. This is a time, I hope the arts come out in a better frame, and we are able to see some good work, because this has made all of us think, and we are put in a pause mode, and we are all thinking. And I hope this thinking and this churning, all this yields to something that is better, something that is more intense, and something that is very coming from the core of your heart.
At this juncture, I would want to take, what's your opinion about to perform it live or recording, Geeta ji? This is the question by Guru Prasad ji.
Our generation was fortunate to have live music most of the time. We didn't have studio recorded music. Firstly, we didn't have studios at that time. Our gurus were against recording anything. My first teacher would never record, even in the class, never record anything. She was against recordings completely. She would not record. So I feel dancing to live music is something that is intrinsic to the dance, because your dance otherwise becomes extremely predictable if you're dancing to recorded music. So I worry for my dancers, because one day what happened is a piece which we have, of course, in our system also, we've recorded many pieces. They had practiced so much on that I started singing that piece and everybody froze. They just stood. I said, Yanache, what happened? So they said, no, this is not the pace. See, so that is the thing. If you're dancing in class, every day you're singing in a different pace. Every day you're singing in a different abhiprayam. So, the dancer learns to improvise. The dancer knows to dance to any kind of, adapt her dance to any kind of situation. But here, because you're dancing to recorded music, you're becoming very predetermined in your mind. You're boxed in. So this is very unfortunate, because how will one line be sung in multiple ways by different musicians, and how your dance changes according to that? That doesn't happen, because you're frozen into one kind of singing all the time, and that is what you're dancing over and over again to it, and it just loses the flavor. You don't have the kind of variety which is possible in dance to explore with a live musician singing for you.
Narendra ji is asking, this question is for the previous comments for Lord Singh. How does one qualify or justify who deserves how much, like Ekalavya never got what he deserved?
There is a point in time when you're entering the profession, and you have to suit the time, unfortunately. You might be a wonderful artist, but today, what is the time? What is the marketplace demanding? What is it that is required of you? It might not be what you are coming in with. That's one. So I cannot do what the next generation is doing, maybe. So I am from a certain generation, a certain thought process, a certain way. So who decides as to how much you deserve is a question that only God can tell you. Destiny can decide what it is. But I think to find happiness in what you are doing, and to find fresh meaning in what you're doing, is, I think, my take on it. Because the times when I felt low, I've always gone back to dance and seen what I can get out of it to pull me out of it. So how much you deserve, nobody can tell. How can we? Because there are many people who matter in the dance haven't even seen you dance. So, it's a large country, and you really cannot kind of be in the right place at the right time. Very few people have that luck and grace of being at the right time, at the right place. So, but that doesn't mean that you are in any way a lesser artist. There are people who respect you. There are people who look up to you. And I think that is what is important. And the kind of people who are the discerning audience who looks up to you and says, ma'am, I respect you for what you're doing. I think that carries weight. And in the younger generation, there are many who come up to me and say that, yes, we value what you're doing and what you're saying, because you're a different voice. You're a voice which is strong and with conviction. So I feel happy.
This is another question here. What is your take on taking up dance as academics?
Again, I think it's a personal choice. Dance as academics is very needed in this country, because we don't have people who are actually studying a dancer's work or studying the process of evolution of the dance, of how the dance is changing, how the audience is changing, presentation is changing, the whole, I would say the whole vis-a-vis the history of the dance, where are we and where are we going. I think all this requires academic study. And also we need our own Indians to talk about Indian dance, and not, outside people talking about Indian dance. So if dancers who are trained in dance take up academics, I think it would be a great of value and merit to see. Because just the other day I was talking to a friend, and I said that, the 80s, no, not even 70s, 80s, 90s are really not documented well. What happened to dance at that time? Before that, it's very well documented. But during that time, what happened to dance? After that, there was a lot of documentation, because anyway, you are on the video and on the screen and etc. So it is that period which is very important, because that's the time when a lot of things happened. So we were saying that, somebody actually has to, and people from that time are still alive and around. So before we lose them, we must talk to them and document them and see how dance changed and how perceptions of dance changed. And we are where we are because of that shift and that turn.
Your neighbor has come to ask for a little sugar. It's just joking. Thank you, Vineta Kumar. I'm from Delhi and a neighbor of Geeta ji in GP. My Bharatnatyam guru is Parthasarathi sir, elder brother of Dakshinamurthy sir, both brothers of Danda and Paripille, wonderful, Vaijati Malaji's guru. Parampara or lineage is important. My Geeta follows the tradition but leaves her own footprints in every dance item, definitely.
Thank you.
You're a fan in the neighborhood, like so many others. Okay. What is your take on theme-based arangetrams?
I have never thought of it, because arangetram for me is a very serious business, and I don't do arangetrams, time-bound arangetrams. I don't do arangetrams just for the sake of doing an arangetram. Nobody can push me to do an arangetram, and no parent has, in our setup, come up to me and asked me for an arangetram. I don't give that space to anybody, because I feel I know best what's happening to the child and what is the capacity of the child, and now I feel I do arangetrams only if the child is going to continue dancing, because I just feel just a tick mark to do an arangetram and then forget it and dump it and go away. I think it's just being very, very, what should I say, dismissive of the dance. And so I just feel that arangetrams are beautiful events, of course. Nowadays, the ambience and the other things take over in an arangetram, and what the child is doing, nobody is bothered about. But I think for me, the focus is, I don't do arangetrams till they are learned for about 11 to 12 years in Natya Vriksha and go through the grind. And so I just feel that we need to rethink on arangetram. We really need to think whether, why are we doing the arangetrams? And then if it's only for the money, then okay, it's okay. If you're come to that point and that is what it is, it's a business, that's fine. Then there's no need to argue, there's no need to debate at all. But if the arangetram has a purpose in creating artists, in creating dancers, in creating evolved human beings, then I think the investment is of a different kind. And so I just feel that each one to their own. Everybody, I think, looks at arangetrams very differently, and everybody has a take on the arangetram. But I feel I am in a process where I'm really rethinking arangetram. I need to think about the arangetrams.
And definitely, arangetram is not the end; it's the beginning. 1, 2, it is not a graduation day, or neither a small wedding before your wedding.
I think that is more so in the South, because in other styles, unfortunately, there is nothing called arangetrams.
Rang Manch Pravesh or
Very
Manch Pravesh is.
they are influenced by Bharatnatyam, and they've started now. Earlier, we never had in the other styles, whether it is Kathak or whether it is in Odissi.
And some classes you are not even let to perform unless until you finish your arangetram. Some acharyas believe that you want to go solo on stage, then you better do arangetram and then go. Whether you are thorough with it or not thorough with it, only then I put your. I mean, I'm not generalizing. This is opinion that over the last 65 episodes, if we have asked this question to several people and each one has come up with this thing. So the
No,
majority.
I think there are a lot of things to it because see, we also have to think when like in Delhi University, there's something called an ECA quota, which is a quota for the arts. And in sports, they all come up with certificates and other things and prove themselves that they are very good and they are admitted. But when it comes to dance or music, this becomes one of the things. Have you done your arangetram? So either the child has to work very hard before finishing school to finish the arangetram and then show that certificate, or else there have to be other criteria to judge. This cannot be the criteria whether have you done your arangetram or not. I think the letter from the teacher, whether the child has been consistently learning or not, all those things should matter.
Thank you, Anupama. Bhushans Academy is not only a dance academy. Oh, wonderful. It's our own Anupama. Okay, one of our students. Wide variety of design of water, which is very admirable. Oh my God. It's embarrassing. Having each one of the costume at its best, but this says creativity and talent has no limits. Thank you for putting it across here. Then there are many great, thanks Geeta ji, and there is Narendra saying, live music excellent provided we have accommodative musicians and give rehearsals, and if we are rich enough to just keep spending because dancers never earn a penny.
I agree because we've been fortunate in Delhi of having very good musicians and them not being that commercial as I've seen in other cities. We've had long relationships with many of them, and I don't think they have been very exploitative like I've heard stories from other places. I'm very thankful to my musicians who have always stood by me and understood how the profession works, and they understand and they always adjust. So I feel sad that that the system, the demand and supply is dancers are many, and maybe the musicians and the other people are not that many. But then I think dancers also need to invest. Like I have this young mridangist who is trained and who wants to come in. Now we are mentoring him and preparing him. He kind of plays for us. So you need to also invest in training younger people and taking them into the fold of accompanying us dancers. So that investment is also very important. You always cannot have a ready-made person there who can come and join your group. You need to train people and bring them into the profession.
Thank you, Nayana Raiji, Vinitha Kumar, Manjula, Kerimani, Shivananda Hegdeji, and Lata Vishwanath. So many of you have joined. It is wonderful. And at this juncture, I would want to take up good point. Geeta, Natya Shastra is Panchama Veda. Manjula Mahesh has a question from California. What do you think dance learning abroad as in comparison to India?
I think it's a mixed bag. I've seen some people in the US learn dance only to kind of get some kind of credits when they make it to the university. But I've seen some others who are extremely committed and sometimes are better students than Indian students learning here. So I think it's a mixed bag. You have students of all kinds all over. So there is nothing sacrosanct about Indian students. We have good students and and not so good students here also. So I think it's the same all over. The motivation as to why you're learning dance is something that varies all over.
Shivanand Hegdeji says, your views on Arangetram is really great, amazing, very correctly said, madam. Yes, wonderful. Thank you for joining. Seema, thank you. Salutations. Vinita Kumar says, it's called Manch Pravesh in Kathak, same as Arangetram in Bharatnatyam. That's right. Manch Pravesh, Rang Manch Pravesh and all that. Most awaited salutations. Ratish is here. He says, excellent explanation, Geetaka. And of course, there is this question. There is also a trend among young dancers to learn several classical dance forms simultaneously. Yes. Do you think they become jack of all and master of none?
Uh, I find a lifetime not enough to do justice to one style. So I admire the people who do multiple styles, because I think the whole accent for each style is very, very different. So if you're able to do multiple styles, wonderful. But I think it is very, very demanding on the body, because, as I said, the orientation, the use of the spine, everything is very different. To actually do justice to every style is very, very hard. So I am not one who endorses learning multiple styles, but it is always nice to learn one of the martial art forms sometimes to understand your body better, because some of the body conditioning that they do is like Kalaripaita or Chow. These are styles which sometimes complement you in your understanding of the body, because they use the body very differently. So I find that, but doing styles like Odissi and Bharatanatyam is
Yes.
something that is very
Or
hard.
rather, Bharatnatyam and Kathak is even, I feel, your muscle memory, it would have taken so long to put one thing in muscle memory. Suddenly imagine, you have to stand straight for Shiva. When most Kathak dances, Shiva is like very loosely, and Adhavandana, Bharatnatyam, it's like, they would rather hit us. And if we suddenly sit in, with all gait and lift our leg, it is considered. I don't understand how people can switch muscle
Very,
memory from one language to other language. Very difficult, very, very
yeah,
difficult.
very hard, very
And
hard.
even we ourselves, to keep this, we are all geometricized to such a way that it has to be firm and neat. And suddenly you have to hold it like that. But they say, of course, all huge respects to all dancers, but then this is my way of seeing it. It automatically it has to, streamline through your body and come out visually for others. So how they manage this is a big task.
Very difficult.
You have had several productions to your credit, several different thought-provoking contemporary productions to your credit. Can you elaborate on the contemporary themes that you dwelled on and you created something?
Uh, I think again the opportunities of engaging with people from various disciplines was I was fortunate to have that, and to collaborate with people. My first production was Shivam, which was based on a poem by a wonderful poet, Chandra Rajan, and the whole concept of abstraction of the concept of Shiva. So that was a group work, and Chandra herself was there to guide me through that and to read the lines and to decipher. Uh, then the next production was Her Voice, which was another step towards um, seeing dance not just as entertainment, but seeing it as something that could be part of an intellectual dialogue. This was an international seminar on women and war, and they asked me to do a production on women and war. So I collaborated with a puppeteer for that, and we took the whole concept of Draupadi and how the puppet became the alter ego, and how she would converse with the puppet. And that was an interesting production with puppetry and dance. So these things, came because of engagement with people from other disciplines. And then came Imagining Peace, which was again part of a conference on peace. And I took a contemporary legend, new legend that was written, new kind of a story that was written based on Kabir's one couplet. So I think multiple ways of engaging with dance, with poetry, with music, different kinds of music as well. I tried to dance to Tchaikovsky. Many people hated me for it. Many people loved me for it. So these are, I think, this is what I'm saying, the risks that you take, So it's not by in any measure that if you do that, you respect, you don't respect Mohamana any less, So I don't see why people need to box you in and feel very happy. Oh, avennamo pandrama. This kind of a dismissive attitude. It was there at that time. And I see the same people doing exactly that now. So, it's a full circle, I think. So if you want to try out something new, you will always face criticism. And that's why I said the risk taking has to be there. And but I'm very happy because I took out, I feel I tried to take out dance from just as entertainment at the end of a seminar to engaging it as part of a deliberation of a conference, having a session on how I created her voice. So I think that gave me a great sense of pride for my own profession, where it was not just the whole conference finishes and everybody sits and eats and drinks and you are dancing, you're entertaining them. It's not just that. This is part of an engagement on women and war, and how this particular production tried to bring out everything that the conference wanted to say through our mythology, our dance, and our techniques of expression. So different people have different quests with vis-a-vis dance. So one should not feel limited. The next minute I would come back and do Yema Elada, So where is the dichotomy? Where is it? I do that, I do this also at the same time. And I come back and teach Swaminathan Nadime in class. So it's all happening at the same time. It's the same head that has the capacity to do so much. And my latest work was based on a Jaina philosophy called Anekanta, which is about multiple truths. It's such an abstract concept. I found it very beautiful because it was so relevant to times now, where we see everything only from one angle, from one perspective, and from unidimensionally. And here is a principle so beautiful, where he says that there is no one absolute truth. Everything keeps changing. Everything is moving. The reality changes after a certain time when you see it from a different perspective. So, and it was such a difficult concept to bring it out in dance, but we brought it out in pure dance, in poetry, in story. We took various elements in music. How just changing of a note completely changes the whole raga in Grahabeda. And yet you are bound by the whole grammar of music. So there is one reality of the grammar, but there are multiple realities of expression. So how everything changes. So I think the possibilities need to be explored through dance. Dance is such a fabulous tool, such a fabulous aesthetic way of expression, that I don't think a lifetime, as I said, is enough to explore all the possibilities.
Yes, I definitely understand the grammar there. And as now Vinita Kumar says, what makes Geeta such an excellent dancer is she's also well versed in Carnatic music. I should admit that, because not every dancer is blessed with an equally good voice, or probably in-depth knowledge in music. Can male acharyas set better examples to male dancers than female acharyas? Is there a chance for male dancers to pick up the effeminate style unconsciously from the female acharyas?
ரொம்ப confusing male acharya, female acharya. No, I think I've had male and female acharyas. My first teacher was a female teacher, and then my second teacher was a male.
No. When you have a male student, this is in reference to a male acharya set better examples to male dancers than female acharyas.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there is any gender. It's your orientation. I think where you come from and what are you carrying in your frame of reference. Because I've seen great female dancers coming out of a male acharya, or great female male dancer coming out of a female acharya. So I don't think this what you say, male acharya set better examples to male dancers. Okay. No, I don't think so. I've had a fabulous male dancer as well, and I think I crafted many things separately for him and made him do a lot of the traditional pieces as well. So I don't think it makes a difference, a male acharya for a male dancer. I don't agree there. I don't. It's just the acharya needs to think what works.
You have, I'm sure there are so many wonderful moments while traveling, while performing, while rehearsing. But there are some funny moments that we all face or we are all a part of. Can you share a couple of funny anecdotes from your probably rehearsals or performance or during the production? A couple of them.
Yeah, there are lots and lots, but offhand I'm not. Of course, costume tearing on stage, and my student coming back, and suddenly, I had done the braid of one student, and she was just going on stage, and suddenly there was a nail there, and that braid caught there, and the braid had come out, and I'm sitting on the opposite side, and she's saying, look at the braid, it's in my hand. And I didn't know what to do. I was sitting in the orchestra doing Nattuvangam, and all with short hair. So there are so many things like this which which we can talk about. And then one student,
please elaborate.
One student, we had a makeshift
question either.
We had a makeshift stage, and she did the Jatiswaram. She was going back, and suddenly we didn't see her. She had fallen back behind. So, and suddenly she recovered and she came back. So she climbed up and she was there the next time we were seeing and singing next Avartanam. So many things that, of course, the nightmarish things are also there. In one of the productions, I think it was Her Voice, we were doing it in India Habitat Center, and it was to recorded music, and the music just stopped. And that was the day I thanked my mother for having trained me in music. I started singing, and I was so worried because I didn't know from where the music was going to start. Had it started from where it had stopped, we would have been sunk. But fortunately, it started where it had moved on and started at the point where we were on stage. So this kind of thing happens, and technology can never be believed. I am always so petrified when we are dancing to recorded music. Any day live to recorded, because recorded is very hard. We've had so many instances of things jumping, of things stopping, of things just not working. So it's a nightmare to do, particularly with group. You don't know. Solo nala, at least you can manage, you can cover up, you can do something. Group, somebody's there, somebody's here, somebody's waiting for an entry, somebody's exiting. You don't know what to do in a group, So it becomes very complicated. But it's fun. Group is always fun. And I have really enjoyed the group because I've traveled with my own students extensively, and we've had great fun. And so this is the advantage of having students of your own in your own company, and you have a special rapport. So our company is really special in that we have all our own students in the company.
I had a similar episode when I was dancing and I had to do Natvangam at one junction because the girl who was doing Natvangam had to go on stage. So I come backstage, all dressed, but then danced, and I will be sweating profusely. And suddenly I come near the mic and say, "Jum, jum." And I got the shock of my life because of the sweat. Mic apdiye current edichithu. It was like through the lips, jum. And I was like. I put my finger and everything is with holding the mic. I could actually, the bhavam that came out of me, the girl was dancing on stage, she looked at me like that once. And that was the end of it. I said, before I touched the mic, I tried to see shock and Ilyan Pathit Apro. That was an experience that happened at an international conference. And suddenly, till then, I was all very polished. So, very, very eloquently saying the Jatin. That was a kind of, even the audience was like, what has happened? Imagine shock to the lips. When there was an electric shock to the lips, which is not, I'm sure nobody would have experienced this. That was one hilarious thing. When you come to think of it today, it is like definitely this. But then at that point of time, I was trembling. And my abhinayam after that, all with Padmini Mari, it was like that. Throughout, how the Sringaram with the Edippu and the Kadapu and doing that. So that was one of the.
Can't hear you.
That was one of the things that you can. There is another question, ma'am. Whom do you like more, Geeta the dancer or the family woman, or the Geeta the mother, or Geeta the wife? Or that's a nice tricky question. I feel. எப்படி சொல்றேன் அதுதான் டிஃபிகல்ட். ஏன்னா வீட்டுக்கு சொன்னா வெளியில ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் என்ன இது மேம் இப்படி சொல்றாங்க, ஸ்டூடெண்ட் டீச்சர் சொன்னா வீட்டுல என்ன இது இப்படி சொல்றாங்க. So let me see how diplomatically you put the answer there now.
I think there's only one me, whether it is a dancer or a family person, because it's just me there. So I don't think I need to make the choice about I don't see the dancer being a star or somebody very high up there. Just dance is my profession, that's all. So I think we need to take ourselves less seriously. That is another thing. Dancers take themselves very seriously, and we need to also joke, we need to also have humor, we need to be normal people. So this whole thing of making a star out of a person, I really don't believe in that. I think I'm very approachable, I've kept myself always like that, and I feel that the family me and the dance me are pretty much the same. So I don't think I don't need to choose.
Very smart, very smart. Vidita again says, your neighbor, I tell you, she is a big time fan. You have to thank your mother not only for teaching your music, but for the consummate artist you are today in grooming you to be perfect in every day. Also, thanks a million to Rajiv and Geeta for hosting and promoting arts like Malavika, Anitaratnam, Yamini Krishnamurthy, etc. Both husband and wife rock. And the rock, when she's saying rock, I wanted to ask you about another rocky episode. Recently, you combated COVID, you were tested positive, and both of you at that time, that is one of the ugly moments earlier no one want to experience. How was it, and what did you go through during that time? I'm sure you did a questionnaire about this with some paper also, but then I would want to hear it from you.
No. I think I hadn't stepped out of the house after March, but in June, suddenly after a class, I felt I was down with fever. I was having fever. I just thought it was some kind of a viral, and my doctor, we consulted on over the phone, and he said, yes, it could just be viral. So just take medicines. So I was taking medicines. The fever was pretty high, and there was no cough, there was no chest congestion, little bit of chest congestion, yes, not much. So we thought after 3-4 days it will just go away. But after I think 3 or 4 days, I lost my sense of smell, and I told the doctor that. So then he said, why don't you get a COVID test done? So got a COVID test done, and it came positive. So that was it. And of course, we informed the local authorities, and there was a board in front of my house. And then after that, the rest of the family, all of them, the next day got themselves tested, and they were all positive. So I think we all got it at the same time. And most of them were asymptomatic, but I had fever, and my brother-in-law had fever. None of the rest of the people had any symptoms of fever or cold or anything like that. So they were all asymptomatic. Yes, it was tough in terms of, there was no fear, because I just said, yeah, it has come, now we deal with it, and go ahead, So exactly, I think 6 to 7 days was what I had, great fatigue and tiredness, etc. But we took all the kadas and all the precautions, and the zinc and the vitamin C and whatever we had to take, we took. And I think by this 8th or the 9th day, I was much better. And the 10th day I was taking class. So I think I came out of it and started doing my routine, because they say it's about 10 days when it takes to, but the fatigue was there a little longer. I felt tired, but got back to work very soon. So I think it's how you handle it. And if you have been fit and you've not had a medical history of any major ailments, I think it's easier to come out of it, and you don't have complications. So I think the moral of the story is to have a healthy lifestyle and to stay healthy, and keep dancing. Dance helps.
Indeed, that is a wonderful thing to say, that dance makes you a different person in every aspect, and during COVID times that will actually help you to keep you busy, at the same time combat any difficult times. Did you have challenges in your life apart from this COVID I'm talking? But did you have any challenges? What is when I say challenge, what are my major things that come to your mind?
General challenges of the knee. Knee did give me trouble, and I learned it the hard way, how to deal with knee problems. And because we did not have warm-ups when we started learning the dance, it was Alaripu was considered to be the warm-ups, and we had kind of pushed our bodies for a long time before we realized that it requires a specific strengthening of areas around the areas that get worn out because of dance. So we picked up things ourselves. No teacher taught us all these things. So everything is self-taught. So health has always been kind of, worked on very carefully after, of course, encountering problems. So we started really taking care of it. And today I'm very happy that, my students are really taking care of being to stay fit and to not have problems related to specific use of certain parts of the body, which are very intense in Bharatnatyam, because Aramandi is there and the knees take a beating. So we have to constantly stay watchful and cross-train. So I think these are things that we picked up, but students today are benefited by the whole long journey that we've had in terms of, ups and downs in your physical condition. And dance has changed, I would say, because the kind of dance we did maybe was very different in terms of energy distribution. Today, for example, you have just a half an hour slot or a 40-minute slot, and you have to dance like there's no tomorrow in that 40 minutes, and it's all very fast, and the pace of the dance has changed, and there is much more of physicality in the dance in terms of movements, in terms of very vigorous movements. So I think you need to prepare your body for all of this. So you need to respond to all these changes. You can't say that keep on doing teha tehi to get better. No, that doesn't work. So cross training is important, and each body is different. What works for one student will not work for the other student. So we need to kind of constantly be watching and keep asking what are the problem areas and react to it and adapt your warm up and your exercise patterns.
To stay afloat and look different and get noticed, dancers, serious practitioners are coming up with varied things which also were taboo before, like probably the dialogues of probably a Draupadi saying unheard dialogues, or English dialogues or English literature where it is explicitly talking about things probably which the traditional dance format never had. Could be talking about with I don't want to use certain phrases from their productions, but then do you accept those kind of phrases or that kind of thought, or talking about something which is not the regular format that is prescribed, and just to look different or just to stay afloat or just to make it sound different, they use these phrases or one-liners which are explicit in their content, which probably it is not too disturbing for the serious audience. Do you appreciate that?
See, Badri, we have to understand that the lockdown has changed the way people are going to view dance. People are viewing dance in their little screen. They are viewing it whenever they want. They are viewing it while lying down. They are viewing it while they are, unfortunately, in the washroom, or they are viewing it when they are going for a walk. So I feel that there is this desperateness in the artist also to catch the attention of the viewer. So I think it's all going to change now. The way dance is going to be presented on the small screen, and some difficult choices have to be made by artists, and they have to use their own intelligence to do it. So you will have good work and not so good work that's coming out. We need not react to it, because each one to their own, I feel. And why should we kind of judge anybody if they're doing something, and if they feel that is what is they want to do? Because time will tell. Good work will stay. It has a long shelf life, and not so good work is not going to stay. So I think we need not worry about that. And as far as English, use of English language and all, this has all been already done. Many years back, all these experiments have been done. So explicit, I think today's generation wants to sensationalize. News is sensational, dance is sensational. So many of the things that people do is to sensationalize. So if you want to do that, that's a personal choice, Badri. So I don't think that I really worry about it, because that's a choice that the artist has to make, and the viewer decides whether the viewer wants to watch this, applaud this, not applaud it. I mean, it's a free thing, but I think this has made the space very, very inclusive. Everybody has a voice, so this medium has made it very inclusive. I've heard many people whom I had never heard before come out and speak. So I think there will be all kinds of things when it is democratized and when everybody is allowed to speak. So you'll have a lot of diverse voices coming, which is, I think, all right. Artists have to make their choices.
What is the one piece of advice that you would give a serious practitioner of today who would want to take this up as a profession?
Don't stay confused. And if you watch a lot of things, and if you attend a lot of workshops, and if you attend and get a lot of information, the whole thing gets a little confused. Please stay, step back and process this information and see what works for you. You have to see what works for you, and each person is different. So there must be there's a lot of marketing happening, but ultimately, what is your takeaway, and what are you going to stay with? And there has to be a core understanding of Bharatanatyam or any other form. There has to be that core understanding in you. You can add and delete to that core, but if the core is not there and you're just kind of imbibing all kinds of things, I think that just becomes this is swaying this way, this way, this way, this way. It doesn't really, kind of hold in the dancers. So I think don't stay confused. I see many dancers confused, and many dancers don't know where to go. That's the other thing. Many of them are without teachers. So this is, I think, have become the trend also, that you are without teacher means you are wonderful. You're great.
And many are with many teachers also.
That is another issue altogether. But I think you always need somebody to look at your dance critically and tell you what works and what doesn't work. So I think that's very important. It could be a guru, it could be somebody you trust in and who gives you important feedback, So it's otherwise, everything you do need not necessarily be the best and working. So I think that if you see great dancers, they've always had either their father, their mother, or your sister, somebody who's very involved with the way you're creating the process and giving that eye, that's very important. You can't just journey it alone, I feel.
Can we see a piece, Abhinaya piece from you? Can we have an Abhinaya piece? What would you like to perform? I thought I'll make you have the digital arangetram, as I put it every day.
Whatever you were talking about, Ganamurti.
Ganamurti we will do? Okay. That's so sweet and amazing. Ganamurti Shri Krishna Venu Ganamurti Shri Krishna Venu Ganamurti Shri Krishna Venu Ganamurti Shri Krishna Venu Ganamurti Tribhuvana Pala Pagitana Murti Shri Krishna Venu Ganamurti Tribhuvana Pala Pagitana Murti Mani 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 Shirokmini Mani Mani Shirokmini Mani Mani Shri Rukmini Manasa Bahara Mana Janak Divya Manasa Bahara Mana Janak Divya Murti Shri Krishna Nirvana Tribhuvana Pala Pahivana Murti Gadamurti Murti Naganiyeta Chora Nandasa Kishora Naganiyeta Chora Nandasa Kishora Nagamitra Tira Narasimha Shura Nagamitra Tira Narasimha Shura Navamira Teja Navamega Teja Nagaja Sabaja Nava Gateja Nava Sabaja Narakanta Kanja Nakatya Narakanta Kanja Naratyaga Jagana Murti Shri Krishna Velogana Mola Tribhuvana Pala Pahivana Murti Shri Krishna Velogana Murti Beautiful Geeta ji, it was so divine and it was very wonderful. I was so blessed to watch your performance during the Raga server. The Raga Ramana Temple Vrindavan, it was awesome. I still remember. Thank you, Avjit. And very nice. Palaniappan Pillai ji. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Geeta ji, for serving this nutritious, delicate I would say Vachika, Aharya, Satvika, and of course, all Abhinayas put together in this rendezvous. And I thank you for accepting to be a part of this wonderful journey. Anything you would want to say to our viewers?
Thank you for singing that song because it's something that I did many years back. I thought we were doing only the Pallavi, but I sang the whole thing. So
even I thought so. I'll sing only the Pallavi, but then I just, as you were dancing, I forgot what I was. I had to stop, and I just went on and on.
Thank you so much for asking me to speak in your program, because always I think talking brings clarity to one's own self as well, because very often you're not, as I said, documented, and you really don't know. Even my own students might not know many things. So these kind of interactions, because we don't talk about ourselves in the class, class is business and we're working. So it's nice to kind of share this kind of occasion, to share some of the thoughts and some of the memories that one carries of one's teachers and one's own journey. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Savitri Auntie, Savitri Jagannath Rao. Both the Sangeetam and Natyam very well performed. Namaskaram to both. Thank you. It's your blessings. And your neighbor again says Navarasa Nana with a Bhakti Geeta. You are the Vara from your movie Varam Prasadam. Oh yeah, to dance. I wanted to talk about that also. The movie part that people have been mentioning about.
I think that'll have to be next time.
Yes. And Gayatri, Satish, Suresh says, what a fantastic way to end this informative, fun-filled sessions. Yes, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Geeta ji, for this wonderful conversation I cherish, and I am happy that you finally arrived. Thank you.
Hope to
We
see,
need your
hope to see you in person sometime.
definitely in Delhi, probably in your festival or probably you coming to our festival. I'm so happy and glad that
Thank you so
you were such generous and you came over. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I cherish this. And of course, our viewers will also cherish this wonderful conversation, which was so well articulated and well presented by you and with flawless, which was not flawless, I should say, effortlessly, which just came across and which just நதியை மாதிரி ஒரு மாதிரி இப்படியே வேவ் மாதிரி அலை மாதிரி அப்படியே பறந்து போகுது. So I'm so happy and glad that you did this. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Padma Shri Srimati Geeta Chandran ji in conversation with me for about 2.5 hours, and I am so happy that all of you joined and all of you were a part of this um, uh, conversation, and you had such wonderful questions also coming up, which I could ask her at the same time. She was so knowledgeable, and each time I converse with such great legend, all I have to do is I add up to the value of knowledge that was this to this to this to huge. The amount of information, and as I told you, Google will give you information but not knowledge, and knowledge is possible only through these kind of conversations with such wonderful celebrity dancers or artists or musicians. So with the same promise that as I come every day, keep watching Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana on our Facebook page, Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana. Bring on people, share these videos of content to your students, to your classmates, to your friends who are equally interested and equally happy looking at all these things. Thank you, Badriji, for it was. Thank you. It was very interesting. Meera Kadal says, thank you, Badriji, for session. Thank you, Meera. And of course, Savitri Auntie, it was very interesting. Thank you for watching over. Thank you for staying back for so long and witnessing the show with the same promise. Stay indoors, stay safe, fight Corona, but keep watching Vishwa Nruthya Bhushana ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಈ ದಿನದ ಈ ಬ್ರಾಡ್ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. Not to forget, we have finished 65 episodes today. Thank you. Thanks you all for making it possible with your constant support. Thank you. Shubharatri.